So this is going to be a fun and hopefully uplifting episode because the last one I did was a little bit of I don't want to say a Debbie Downer, but it definitely got me centered on some emotional stuff that will probably be with me till the day I die. And if you listen to the last episode, you'll know what I mean. So today I want to talk about portraying yourself as authentically as possible. The reason why I wanted to do this, and I have a very funny story. I have a very funny story to share from my childhood that I hope you get a kick out of because every time I think about it, I laugh. I think it's pretty good. Anyway, and I want to use it as a backdrop for emphasizing how important it is today, especially in the AI age. Artificial intelligence is taking over communications and it's taking over business. And we're all still trying to figure it out, and it'll probably be that way for a while because the AI platforms and tools that are available today will continue to evolve. They will continue to get more and more sophisticated. And right now, I feel like we're in the honeymoon freakout phase, where we're kind of like, oh my gosh, this is great. It's saving me time. It's saving me effort. I can do things so much faster, blah, blah, blah. I can use AI to do the things I don't like, etc. And as a solopreneur, that's really important because we want to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible in our business. And we don't want to hire a team or hire a company to do stuff for us. We want to be self-sufficient because that means larger profit margins. And that's kind of important when it comes to revenue growth. And then the other side is like the fear of AI is going to replace me, AI is going to take this job away, or it's going to reduce the amount of audience that I can reach, etc. So it's a mix of both. And that's kind of like the phase that I think we're in right now. Everybody has their own opinion about where we're at with AI. But as a solopreneur, let's bring it down home to where we're sitting right now. As a solopreneur, we have to work really hard to do many things. We wear many hats, and we are constantly out there trying to grow our business, grow our revenue, but still maintain some sort of sanity, simplicity, and independence as a solopreneur because it gives us a lifestyle that we enjoy. We work from home, we can travel, we can do all sorts of things that are much more in line with our preferences. Let's go ahead and get into what I'm talking about when it comes to authenticity, really maintaining your balance in who you are and how you're putting yourself out there in the world so you can not only continue to get more referral business, but also strike new business and new opportunities. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Welcome to My Solopreneur Life. I'm Terry Pappy, your gracious host, and I am so glad you're here. I have a wonderful episode for you. Sit back, relax, and let's have some real talk about what it is to be a solopreneur. So you and I both know that we've gotten to the point where we can pretty much tell, even with AI and how sophisticated these video renderings have become, the images have become, many people are going to that to create content to promote their businesses and their services. And that's all fine. And if you're out there creating content to promote your business and services using AI, what happens when the AI eye candy, if you will, the low production costs, whatever's involved in what you're saving or what you're trying to do differently than everybody else, what is the gap between that content and the actual experience that you're providing your clients? I don't want to classify this as a bait and switch tactic, but what I want to talk about in this episode is the BS factor. It's very easy for us to look at what we're doing and how we're deploying artificial intelligence in our business. But when it comes to managing, calibrating the expectations of new clients, new customers that come to our business or come to our offer or whatever we're touting, promoting on social media or wherever we're doing it, is there going to be a big gap, a big shift in the experience of what they're seeing from the promotion to the experience that you're providing them? In prior episodes throughout this whole podcast, I beat the drum of authenticity, of being as transparent as possible. And one of the biggest challenges, or like the theme of this season, is the hidden reality of being a solopreneur, is we have to work really hard to close that gap and make sure whatever we're promoting or talking about on social media or wherever we're doing our drum beating from the stage, making a presentation, or wherever we're doing our dog and pony, if you will, are you making sure that that presentation isn't about the show and the, how awesome everything's going to be, and then you go to work with somebody and they don't have the expectation that you created in that promotion? Now, not everybody's doing this. Most people are doing a reasonably fair job. But when I look at, I don't know if you do this, but when I go on Instagram or sometimes even LinkedIn, there's this sense of, and I hate to overuse the word authenticity, but there's this sense of, hey, look at me, and I'm so awesome, I do all this stuff, and, the humble brags and things like that. And then when you go to reach out to that person, it's a completely different situation. And even before AI, this was going on. So somebody would have a beautiful website, or they do these great photo shoots, and then you'd go to work with them and it wouldn't solve your problem, or it would cost a tremendous amount and the return you got was so little. It was a disappointment. It's no different than hiring a contractor to work on your house or to do something on your car, and the job they do is crap, right? You're not going to refer them. You're not going to want to deal with that company ever again. This is why I wanted to record this. And it's so funny because usually when I get ideas to do these recordings, these episodes, I'm always like, oh, that'd be a cool thing to talk about. And oh, this could help solopreneur, or one of my clients dealt with this. Maybe I can talk about that. But this whole idea, I'm already laughing. This whole idea for this episode came from a memory of a story from when I was a kid. And it was about fooling my grandmother. And I'll get to the story in a second because you're gonna love it. At least I hope you do. I'm trying to be entertaining here. But what made me think about it was like, people know you're BSing them. So if you're overusing AI, if you're promising the moon, the sky, and everything in between, they're not going to believe you because there's so much bait and switch. There's also a lot of noise that's being put out there in the digital communication streams. And after a while, doesn't it all sound the same? I mean, it's like, I can get you to 6-7 figures and blah, 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 and save this and save that. It's like these things are becoming so rote, and it's like they've lost their meaning. It's marketing speak. It's the kind of messaging that isn't clear, which is a big deal in the work I do because I create messaging for my clients. And I always use the hero's journey model, Donald Miller's story brand, because it tells a story. And when you tell a story, you're inserting yourself into that story. And you're also inserting your client or your customer is the hero of that story. And that's why I love the story model, because it kind of forces you to be authentic, and it forces you to manage the expectations up front as far as what your audience can expect in working with you. As our BS detectors get even more fine-tuned, and as we get more and more eye roll and the kind of turn off that a lot of this artificial stuff, no matter how good it looks, and believe me, there's some really crazy stuff. It's like, remember when CGI in the movies, the green screen effect and all the technical stuff that they used to do? And it's like, wow, they create these worlds and it's like you're immersed in this crazy environment because of what they can do with animation and CGI and all of this stuff. Well, that's what's coming over into the business world. But what's different is in the movie world, we're entertained. We're drawn into a story. We're catapulted into this environment or this world that is just saturated with all this visual stimulation and very detailed, like a dream. But in the business world, we don't want to be in a dream unless it's the dream to solve our problem. So when we create a lot of this fake stuff to showcase our AI capability or our ability to just look slick and look professional, it doesn't close the gap. What it really does is it puts you further away from the trust factor. And authenticity is all about building trust. If you can find a way to build trust faster with prospects, you're going to have that much less marketing to do, and your sales cycle will completely shorten when you have those types of strategies around your marketing and how you're putting yourself out there, how you're talking to prospects, how you're presenting your value. And just watch. I guarantee this is something that we're going to be seeing in the very near future, if not, it's here already. Remember that when you're looking at your AI implementation strategy. This is the story that made me think about it. I guess the theme of the story is you can't fool everyone. And I certainly couldn't fool my grandmother. Let me set the scene. And you'll have to forgive me because I'm going to be cracking up throughout this whole story because it's hilarious. I would say I'm in ninth grade, and my grandmother was kind of like taking care of me while my parents went on a trip or they were up north. I can't remember. I was living in Florida at the time. And I was going to high school down there, and it was my first year in that high school. They had brought me down from Philadelphia, and we were spending the winter because my dad was retired and he snowbirded. So I asked my grandmother if it would be okay if I had a sleepover with a girlfriend from school. And she's like, yeah, sure, no problems. My friend Linda, I even remember her name. It's so funny. Her mom brought her over, and, typical girlfriend sleepover night, right? We had dinner with my grandmother, and then she went off to watch TV, and we, of course, ran to the bedroom. We're like, being girls and stuff. And for me, being in ninth grade, which I think is like 14 or whatever, and I was trying to corrupt my friend Linda. And what I mean by corrupt was she was in a very religious family, and she was brought up in a very strict household. And so it was my job to corrupt Linda. So because I was a wild child when I was a kid. And so anyway, I said to her, have you ever had a cigarette? And she's like, oh God, no. And I'm like, I've tried it. And I was never really into cigarettes or anything like that. It was just more of a like, hey, let's be cool and let's have a cigarette, look at all the seniors and the juniors are out there sitting on the wall having a cigarette and they look so cool. You know how it is when you're a kid. And so, and it was still early. It was like, I don't know, 7:00, but it was dark out because it was in the wintertime. And I said to Linda, I can get us some cigarettes. Because back then, this is like back in the, 70s. And the convenience store or the gas station where they'd sell cigarettes to a 5-year-old. It was crazy back then. And so I'm like, hey, I can get on my bike and ride up to the store and get us a pack of cigarettes, and then I'll bring it back and we can hang out the window and smoke a cigarette. So I was hell-bent on not only corrupting poor Linda, but going on this little adventure because I didn't have any cigarettes. That was not something that I had on hand on a regular basis as a 14-year-old. So anyway, in my bedroom, I had 2 windows, and they were cantilever windows, but they had 2 big panels. So when you open them all the way, you could actually go out the window. Like it was wide enough where I could squeeze out, and once you pop the screen out, and get outside. Because I didn't want my grandmother to know that I was going to get on my bike and ride up the street and buy a pack of cigarettes and bring them back and hang out the window and smoke them with Linda. So meanwhile, my grandmother's in the living room. She's watching TV and, just being grandma. And the funny thing was, this is the irony of the whole situation. My grandmother had cigarettes. She actually smoked cigarettes. But for some reason, I was scared to death that she would notice if I took one of her cigarettes to get Linda to just have a cigarette. Because it's not like we're going to sit there and puff the whole pack down, right? So anyway, it was just, the mind of a 14-year-old, I swear to God. So anyway, I talked Linda into this. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go get him. I can get the bike out of the garage and I can ride up the street, blah, blah, blah. So I had it all figured out in my head, right? I'm like, here, I'll show you. We'll lock the door. So I locked my bedroom door. And Linda was just like deer in the headlights. She was all freaked out. She's like, oh my God, I don't want to get in trouble, because she was not used to doing anything bad at all, right? So I popped the screen out, opened the window. I said, listen, if my grandmother comes to the door, just, figure it out. I can't remember what I told her to do, but, to buy us some time or whatever. And I said, I'm going to go get the bike and go get it. So I go and I climb out the window and I say, close the shades, so she closed the shades, but we left the window open, right? And so now here's the thing. So like the foundation of the house was at one level. So getting up and over the window sill and outside was no big deal. In fact, I probably even stood on the bed or something like that. But getting back in, I don't know that I really thought that through, because the ground was a lot lower than the foundation outside my window. I'll be getting to that in a moment. So I climb out, everything's cool. And I go around the house, okay, the side that my grandmother wasn't on. And I go to the garage door. Now I knew that I could open the garage door with my hands. I could just lift it up. And I don't know why they don't really do that now, but back then I was able to do it. So I go running around and I put my fingers under the garage door and I start to open it real slow. And then the garage door creaks. And I stopped. And I was like, oh God, I hope she didn't hear that. And then I kept going. I lifted up a little more. And then it went like really loud. And I was like, ah! And all of a sudden, and I had it probably about 1.5 feet, like right around my knees, open. And then I saw the garage light come on. And I dropped the garage door and I took off, ran around the house, and was trying to climb back in the window to the bedroom, because I was like, oh crap, my grandmother heard the noise, came to the garage and turned on the light, probably saw the garage door going down. And I'm starting to climb to try to get into the window. And I said, Linda, help me get in here. So she had to like grab my arm to pull me over this thing. And I'm all freaking out. And while I'm trying to get in the house, I can hear my grandmother knocking on the door. Terry? And I'm like, and because I was halfway into the bedroom, I was like, yeah, Grandma, what's up? I was trying to sound so cool. And poor Linda's like, what is going on? You're coming back in the window. You just left a minute ago. Your grandmother's banging on the door. What do I do? And so I finally got into the room, closed the shades back up on the window, and you're going to love the acting. And then I came to the door and I unlocked it and I opened it real slow and I was kind of rubbing my eyes like she had woken me up. I'm like, what? What's the matter? She goes, were you just in the garage? And I'm like, no, we were in here in bed. And she's like, are you sure? I just went out there and I could have sworn someone was trying to get into the garage. And I'm like, no, it wasn't me. Well, as a 14-year-old wanting to get on my bike to go to the store to get cigarettes, that's not going to fly too well with my grandmother, okay? Because she's going to tell my mom and dad, and then they're going to open up a can of whoop, you know what on me. So, and meanwhile, Linda's just standing there like frozen with her eyes going left and right, going, what is happening right now? And so I'm like, what did you see? And so here I am putting on this big act. This is why I wanted to use this story. Putting on this big act that I've been in the bedroom the whole time. I haven't been doing anything because I didn't want to get in trouble. And so my grandmother goes back out and I'm like, well, let's go see, because I knew everything was fine because it was me that was doing it. So we go walking through the house and I could tell my grandmother was getting a little upset, like agitated, because she was there by herself, really didn't know anybody, like as far as neighbors, or there was no somebody to help if she got in any kind of trouble, watching these two tween-age girls. And here she is, somebody's trying to break into the house. And so, Grandma, I'm so sorry. I know you know the truth now because she passed away many, many years ago. I'm so sorry. But hey, kids do stupid stuff. So, so we go to the garage, we open the garage door, and I say, go look around, and I didn't see anything inside the garage. I'm acting like a little detective, and she's all worked up, and I'm like, should we call the cops or something? Like, and she's like, yeah. I'm like, well, why don't you go ahead? I mean, this is how this escalated so quickly, right? So she gets on the phone, she calls the cops come over. While we're waiting for the cops to come over to make sure nobody's trying to break into the house or there's a problem outside. And we lived in a pretty populated neighborhood. I mean, the houses were kind of right on top of each other. So it wasn't like we were rural or anything like that. And so I get Linda over in a corner and I said, oh my God, the cops are coming and they're going to see my footprints from the wet grass in the driveway, because we had like a concrete driveway. And so here I am sweating bullets that when the cops get here, they're going to see my footprints and they're going to be like, okay, so somebody was trying to get into your garage and they look like small footprints that's, I mean, my head was just racing in a million different directions, right? But I was still in self-protect mode. I was not going to say that was me. I would rather sacrifice my poor grandmother's anxiety and get the cops out here for a stupid call that ended up being nothing but some juvenile pulling a prank. And so the cops come, of course, they do they look around and they come back and they say, everything looks good. So, just call us back if you hear anything else or whatever, but I'd lock your doors kind of thing. And that was that. I mean, we went back to bed. My grandmother probably was rattled the rest of the night, if not the rest of the time she was there till my parents came back. And I thought, I got away with that one, right? Like I said, I did not want to get in trouble. And, I'm sure that you probably had something, unless you're somebody like Linda, who really fleeces white as snow. God bless her. She was just such a good girl. And here I am trying to corrupt her with a cigarette after all that. So I was kind of left. And, it's funny. I have to tell you this little kind of like ending to the story. So everything went back to sort of normal, if you can call it normal. And I never confessed. But I remember years later when I don't know how we got on the topic about talking about that time period or whatever. And my grandmother said to me, she says, I know it was always you. And I still was, like, well, I don't know, I just kind of like glossed over it. I didn't confess. I never confessed when she was alive that was me, but I know that she knew. And see, that's the whole point I'm trying to make. People know when you're trying to pull one over on them, whether they get it from how you're presenting yourself on social media, the content that you're putting out there, or when it comes down to they finally, say, okay, let's work together. And then the experience that you promised is not the experience that you were portraying. So as a solopreneur, it's your responsibility to be as authentic, upfront, transparent as you need to be without being a bleeding heart, like sometimes I can be a little bit with my stories, and prove to them that you're really there to provide value, to give them as good of an experience as possible. And remember to be balanced about the content that you're putting out there, because it is so easy to fall into the trap of some of these quick funnel, click here and get this, do this and do that. And we're kind of like little lab rats, the way we're trained to interact with those things. But I'm telling you what, people are getting tired of it. What people want when they're out there, whether it's a consumer or another business, they want the least amount of friction and the highest degree of quality in the experience that you're creating for them in the expectations in your communications. So make sure that whatever you're putting out there, that it's got a good dose of DNA in it from you, and that the experience that you're going to provide them is going to be so exemplary that they're going to refer you over and over and over. And this is what we want. As a solopreneur, you will get probably more business. Now, it's dependent on the kind of work you do, but you will get more business from referrals because you have the ability to be that person who works directly with that client or that customer. And because there's no gap between you and the experience you're creating for them, there's going to be no problem, unless you give them a bad experience, there's no problem with them wanting to just encourage referrals and send people your way because they know that because they worked with you, you gave them a great experience and a great result, that it's easy to refer you. And that's how I've grown my business. I would say primarily 75% of my business has come and my business has grown through referrals. And a lot of it's due to the fact that I hate marketing and I hate social media posting and all that promotional stuff. I would rather just provide all kinds of value and just let people lean in and see that, this Terry chick is pretty cool, right? She's pretty cool. I want to work with her. She knows her stuff. But I mean, I've been doing this too long to not realize the value of being a real human being. Be measured in how you deploy your marketing and your messaging so you're not expanding that gap between what you're promising in social media or from wherever you're doing your promotional work to the actual experience. Let them get to know you. Be honest about the world that you're working in. Talk a lot about your customer's experience. There's so many different ways you can come at it. And if you come at it with heart first versus the whole, hey, I want to sell you a used car kind of thing, then step away from the funnels. Use that automation where it makes sense. Remove the friction from the experience that you're creating for your customers and your clients, and you will go so much further in the referral game, as well as just feeling good about what you're doing with your clients. So I hope you enjoyed that funny story from my adolescent years. And it's one that I will always remember. And again, sorry, Grandma, but it was fun reliving the story. Well, I know you're disappointed, but that's it for this episode. Listen, the great news is there's another one coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you do the prompt. If this episode had a prompt, and you get that homework done because you're going to be a better solopreneur. How's that for a maternal finger shaking at you? Hey, listen, thanks so much for being here, for giving me time of your day, and, for taking it on. So if you want to learn more and stay connected with me, just head on over to mysolopreneurlife.com. Thanks a bunch. See you soon. That was pretty good. I think I'll keep that one. Bye.